I've been a monthly member of STOP for much of my time since graduating from the University of Chicago. Right now, I have recently renewed my membership as a monthly donor. I donate $50 a month to STOP, which is, a stretch for many people. It's manageable for me as a member of a lot of kind of donor mobilization spaces. I think that the best thing that I can tell you all is why I donate, which is that STOP has been there throughout many generations of students. The University of Chicago waits out generations of student activists and tries to think about what ways to, evade the asks that we all need to, and that we're all mobilized to make of the university. Its power and its money and its control is something that touches many lives beyond those of students. But as students, we have the power to continue to resource the work that shaped us as organizers and as leaders. So I'm incredibly grateful for my ability to be a member of STOP and to continue that journey and that kind of that learning community that I was so privileged and fortunate to be part of. And as Noah pointed out to me in my breakout room, it's so awesome and so cool to have been part of a winning campaign so young and so early in my life. And I want more wins. So the best way to do that is to fund. So I went to stopchicago.org/donate. I am giving $50 a month, and I invite you all to join me. And a kind of a factor of being part of the elite community and institution is that you have access to other people who have resources. So even if other people aren't here tonight, your community, your friends, your peers, I encourage you to ask them to donate and to support this work into future generations of students and hopefully of Woodlawn community residents who continue to not go anywhere and to fight back against power over rather than power with.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hightower. Thank you, Olivia. We've thrown in the multiple ways in which you can donate in the chat. If y'all need help or access to, Dominic is our handy dandy fundraiser and alum of UChicago. Much appreciations to you, Dominic. Shout out all you monthly due paying folks and members of STOP then in the chat. If you aren't familiar with STOP yet, if you are new to being around us, prepare because it's great. We have kick-ass elders and members such as Ms. Hightower. We have folks on the call now, Miss Harper. I saw other folks on the call, but I can't, your names are escaping me right now that, as much as the students really make the work come alive and definitely are here to educate and bring y'all all along with us. So yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and move us on to our next piece, this mini conversation. And thank you, Alex. How can I forget? If you are a monthly dues paying member, you get some STOP swag, okay? You get a nice, we have hoodies while supplies last. Ms. Harper is currently rocking hers. Yes, okay. Ms. Marilyn Harper, if you're looking for Marilyn. So yes, snag it. Let us know once you donated and we've got you. We'll hold it. And I told you I'm in the office right now. Anywho, back to our next piece. We are now going to have a panel / whole group conversation. So I do hope folks chime in when they have something to contribute. And again, you all do. We've all are here and like collectively have decades of organizing experience that we've all been a part of. And currently you want to hear where that's led you if you have been a part of it in the past. We'll start now by hearing from a couple of specific leaders. I myself will be sharing about STOP's current direction, being a more recent organizer with STOP. Fun fact, I'm going to have my 1-year anniversary in a few weeks. But anywho, I'd love to also hear from all of you about your experiences and your perspective, especially as it relates to the organizing around the university and within the University of Chicago. So we have Jay Travis, amazing human being. Jay Travis is a a 2002 graduate of the University of Chicago Social Work School. She was the director of COCO in the decade preceding the Trauma Center campaign. She's most recently been co-director of the Midwest Academy, the organizing trainer for much of the United States. We also then have Ryan Lugalia-Hollon. I'm so sorry please correct me if I chopped up your name, please. Ryan is a 2004 University of Chicago anthropology alum and leader in the student group that co-founded STOP. He since has gotten a UIC PhD in urban planning and led community and youth orgs like Chicago's YMCA. Myself, I'm Savannah Brown, again, STOP's lead housing organizer, and I organize with the CBA Coalition and its campaign for reparations alongside students at the University of Chicago, also known as UCAD, many of them, some care not cops. And yeah, I'll share a little bit about that. I hope, again, you all chime in where appropriate. And so yes, over the next 15 minutes, I do want to hear, first I'm going to give these questions to our panelists, Jay and Ryan. And then again, where y'all have something to say, please raise your hand. Please put in the chat stack. Please communicate, write it in the chat. Oh, Miss Williams is here. I'm sorry, Miss Williams, how did I not give you your shout out? And yeah, let's go ahead and start. So my first question, Jay and Ryan, what organizing did you do around the University of Chicago's racism or even reparations when you were around the University of Chicago?
I can jump in. J. Travis, pronouns she, her, and hers. During the time that I was a student, I was also one of the youngest executive directors at COCO. But I think that building power with Black families in the surrounding communities, the communities around the University of Chicago, building power both to realize our vision for our neighborhoods and communities, but also against displacement and disenfranchisement continues to be the biggest threat. The university, I think that our self-determination, our clarity, our vision around our right to organize, and our willingness to build coalitions with each other, that I've been involved in my time as an organizer. So I think what was critical for me was to make sure that I continued to work side by side with Black families, fighting for fair and decent affordable housing, doing some early work around community benefits agreements, which I think helped to support later efforts around community benefits agreements. And I think more importantly, unifying with other organizations that had the same vision around building power and fighting back against the political establishment and the corporate elite's desire to see us removed from cities where we have, from the city that we have deep roots in. So I think for me, a lot of my work had to do with work around figuring out how to stay united with surrounding communities, to not become isolated, and not see myself in any way as apart from my people, and just continue those efforts to build coalitions and greater power.
Thank you so much, Jay. Ryan, are you able to weigh in on that question?
Let's find out, Savannah. Thank you for having me. I want to build on what Duff just put on the chat, the beautiful quote from the wonderful Jay around not seeing myself in any way as apart from my people. I would be curious, if not now, then in a future time, like in a whole group conversation around like how people have detoxed from their University of Chicago experience, and particularly the life of the mind. Because I think what allows structural racism to persist is a culture of living in the mind. Like, how else can you ignore, persistent disparities, persistent violence, persistent pain of the communities around you, if not continuously escaping to the mind through theory and the pleasure of analysis, and avoiding your heart and seeing yourself apart from people. So that's, I feel like I've been on this long detox journey into my heart, right? Which you all know as organizers. I'll tell a couple quick stories. One, the most important contribution that I feel like I personally made to STOP was kind of random. But I was, when we were student organizers and we were, doing Angels of Deaf, and I can talk about that more in a second, and getting started with the student tenant organizing project at the time, we obviously had what we considered conspiracy theories about like the university's intentions towards surrounding neighborhoods and the land of surrounding neighborhoods. And it's something we talked about a lot. And I also served on some committee for the university's, like I was a student advisor for the university's community development department or something like that. And I remember being in a one-on-one meeting with this administrator up in, a fancy office. And this administrator, in what I choose to believe was an act of solidarity, excused themselves to go to the restroom for a period of time. And when I looked at the desk directly in front of me, there was a stack of printed out PowerPoint decks entitled "The University's Plan for Land Expansion." And so, I interpreted that the excess of copies on the desk in front of me as an invitation to take one. And so took one, promptly went to the University Community Service Center, made as many copies as possible, and then took them to real organizers, Matt and Alex. And I was like, it's real. Like there's that saying, when the plan for transformation was happening, right? Like the reality was that people were not being paranoid enough. And that was also very true of our student community, because it was super real. Like the plan to, totally tear down Grove Park, which STOP prevented from happening and heavily mitigated, was like on slide 3, right? So that was an act of fate and synchronicity, but something I was proud to support. Like the story of Angels of Deaf is like way more random. And it's just like, literally, y'all, we like organized through a group Wikipedia page where like the students interested in urban gardening, like filled in their thing. And then the students who were interested, like we had one of my brothers at the time, he did an internship at Acorn. He learned about organizing. He got connected to We Can in Woodlawn at the time, and Arvis Arvoret, a long-term Woodlawn organizer. And he partnered up in launching this student tenant organizing project thing, which Alex and Matt and many of you in Toussaint and others built into something real, right? In partnership with leaders like Jay. And so Angels of Deaf was just like, it was really, to Olivia's words, it was just a learning community. Like, how do we start to learn about what it means to show up in a meaningful way in these communities that our university doesn't want us to show up in? And that's all it really was. And we like to dance. And I think that helped us, get some more students involved. But that was us. But I think for me, one of the big lessons was just like you got to trust your gut and then see where that leads you. And I think my closing thought would be like, our contributions in that era of student organizing were pretty random, but they were committed enough to allow others who were even more serious than us to come and do bigger things. And it is like, this is intergenerational work. And we can only imagine that if the university was connected to its own heart and had a multi-decade vision for investment and liberation in surrounding neighborhoods, the Mid-South Side would be in a very different place, but that's obviously not the case. And so it falls on generation after generation of student leaders to build that torch and that multi-generational lens. And I'll pass it back to you, Savannah.
That was beautiful from both of y'all. I just want to highlight again how most universities, especially predominantly white institutions, PWIs, often intentionally isolate, like how Jay was saying, they want to separate as much as possible the local school body from the people. And again, it's because they do have intentions, and it's easier if you just associate the folks that live here as folks that you can associate with. That way you don't care what happens to them, and or you're completely oblivious, right? And how there are so many things that PWIs also probably do wrong. And there's so many things to choose to be activists around, and how important and amazing is it for folks to choose to look in the community, look around them, the people that they are being surrounded by, and like, instead of engaging, and I like how you said, Ryan, like escaping and in theory and just academia in general, like paying attention and joining them to learn more, really, and have these learning communities and essentially build power by coming together. What, again, the most universities don't want to see happen. Thank you so much. Again, I want y'all to join in the conversation. Please throw things in the chat. I think the chat has been going off, but I get easily distracted, so I'm not going to read it until later. So I do want to then pose this next question, and then I will open it up to a whole group conversation after this question and one more. So this next question for both of you all: if you compare your time as a student to the world we live in today, what are the strategies that you think we need in our movement today, and how did those differ from strategies that you used when you were on campus?
I think that I've learned a little bit about protracted struggle, I think about campaigns like the Fight to Save Diet High School. I think about the Trauma Center campaign, and I think about those fights being really deeply rooted in our community's vision for the kind of world we want to see and want to live in. And then correlating with that is understanding that it was going to take some time. It takes some sacrifice and take, a protracted struggle to win it. And I think that those fights and the leaders that were engaged in those fights should always tell those stories, because thinking about Chicago right now, since the year of 2000, more than 270 Black people have been displaced from this city. So as we assert our vision for a city that we live and exist in and thrive in, we've got to have, our sense that it's going to really require us to really fight for that vision long term. And then I think the other thing that stands out to me is just the kinds of coalitions that we need to build, and how those coalitions need to center people most impacted at the heart of them, and how we need to treat each other in respectful ways as we struggle side by side, with each other. So I think that's what's sort of on my mind, how we resist together over time, and how we do that together over time, centering people most impacted and treating each other with respect.
One thing I would add, in building Savannah on your, naming of the UFC as a PWI, when I was a student, a campaign that other members of Angels of Deaf were involved in, but I was not, was the Students of Color Coalition. And at the time, the only gathering space for students of color was like a multicultural space that was like on the 10,000th floor, was not, obviously not invested in or a priority. And that coalition successfully organized the administration to build what is now, I believe, the Amando Center, and selected the architect, and got this beautiful building constructed. And I don't know where it's at now, because I haven't been back on campus in a long time. But I do think that Savannah's bridging of, and at that time, UofC had the lowest or among the lowest retention rates for students of color of any elite private university in the country. So the connection of a culture of systematic exclusion on campus and a practice of systematic exclusion in surrounding neighborhoods, that bridge is really, really important. I would hope, and I would assume that like the resources and momentum for white students to reflect on their own whiteness and think about how to embody that more responsibly is in a different place today than it was in 2000, from 2001 to 2004, that there's momentum there to build on. In terms of what new strategies are needed, I think exactly what is happening right now is something to run with. And Olivia, you framed it beautifully up front, just alumni organizing. Like it's, you know, what if there were, I don't know how many alumni there are from the university, but if this community tonight became a community of thousands, which feels very feasible, that would be super powerful. And then you can stack crypto and blockchain and all these other things on top of that and just change the game. So.
Thank you both. And I just want to pick up, because again, I have the privilege to organize alongside folks at the university right now, part of UCAD, University of Chicago Against Displacement. And I think, Jay, like you talking about coalition building, right? And Ryan, you also talked about the intergenerational piece, especially with it being students passing the torch, and then now mentioning alumni, like building a power together. And then, I mean, come on, a learning community, having folks engage, I think is super important, because again, students are constantly leaving and y'all have done so much, right? Imagine if you all are connected to the folks currently organizing, what kind of knowledge there would be, because oftentimes, we were just talking about this at a UCAD meeting, all the knowledge and momentum is left once folks leave, you know? That's why we need to constantly bring people in, but that's also why it's so important to then have spaces where you are organizing with community members, people who have been in the community for years, can attest to how the University of Chicago has redlined, the University of Chicago has land grab, the University of Chicago has heavily policed folks living in the neighborhood, you know? That knowledge is power, and that is lost when we don't stay together and continue and struggle with folks that are coming in and passing that torch and making sure that the folks that are in a different place, a different class, graduating class, still knows these key things that will then empower them to continue this movement, right? And also know that things have been won. You know, it's possible to make change happen. So thank you both. And final question before then I invite everybody else to join us in this, and please continue to throw your things in the chat so that we do hold on to the key pieces that are sticking out to us. My final question is, what do you think it takes to beat University of Chicago and win justice for people harmed by the University of Chicago's racism? It's a big question, I know. You can let us sit in for a second if you need to.
I'll get started. That's a big one. I think given the UofC history with policies and programs like urban renewal, or current day efforts around the participation in the development connected to the Presidential Center. I think what holds true is that organizing, and clear organizing with the clear kinds of demands and strategies that I see, I believe, in the CBA campaign. I think that what's missed in that campaign, and I don't want to jeopardize any 501c3 stats, you know, but there was a very sophisticated organizing happening here between Black folks in Woodlawn, Kenwood Oakland, southeast side of Chicago, uniting together around the need for a benefits agreement, uniting together around the need for affordable housing being articulated in that agreement, the need for folks from the community to be employed, and against displacement. And to do that kind of organizing and to then unite with folks in other spaces that were doing some more electoral C4 related kinds of organizing to actually support the election of somebody that lives in Woodlawn that could then carry forward and sponsor the very, very, very ordinance that helped me. That's some sophisticated stuff. I mean, I saw y'all get down with the trauma center. I know how y'all get down, but to watch what's happening with the CBA campaign and the impact that it's having, not just here, but around the country is amazing. I think that kind of organizing and solidarity is what it'll take. And I just want to also lift up, I am loving seeing these babies around. I remember when these folks didn't have these babies. Hey, babies.
Savannah, I don't know. To be honest, I think, as we just talked about, listening to Jay, I think is step number one, and really running with that and building on this alumni organizing and building those bridges between students. Not maybe, I guess, like right now there's this generation over generation bridge between students and tenants, and if that becomes a generation over generation bridge between students, tenants, and alumni, that would be powerful. But I do wonder how you counter, and this is like very UFC of me to go there, but like I do wonder how you counter the life of the mind. Like how do you challenge a university community across all stakeholder groups to live from the heart and thus live from an awareness of their inherent interdependence with those around them, and in many cases dependence on those around them. And I don't know the answer to that, but for me, that's an interesting organizing question. I'll pass it back.
Thank you so much. And I do think this is another good plug. Maybe I should drop the link again. University of Chicago Against Displacement, UCAD, has currently demands that we're asking of, we have demands of the current president. I'm going to drop this link, and it's an opportunity for y'all to sign on to those demands and supporting them, but also for y'all to connect again to the current organizing body of students that are taking part in the work, especially around housing and tenants, folks being able to stay in the community, right? Anti-displacement measures happening. So again, I think I just dropped that link. Please fill it out so that folks can be in communication with y'all and we can share this power and knowledge that we have. Speaking of things that we've been doing recently, I can give just a brief summary of where we're at with the coalition. Just to give y'all some background, I did say that I'm about to hit my 1-year anniversary with STOP, right? I was organizing with the coalition, the CBA coalition, Community Benefits Agreement, about 8 months maybe prior to even, I did not think I was equipped to be an organizer, but we all are, right? There's so many fresh faces who are new to organizing and don't think that they can make these huge changes because they don't see the timeline. It's not immediate, right? It happens down the line. Nonetheless, I was brought on and I was right away working alongside folks at UCAD, making presentations, educating folks about, I'm lucky I joined the coalition after a win, right? So I was already feeling like, woo, we can do whatever, right? We were educating folks on what it was that we won and how long it took to win it. That's why I wanted to join the coalition. I was like, this is what real organizing looks like, right? After 6 years, the ordinance is passed. However, the ordinance is passed and the city still hasn't delivered on everything, right? The university has since started construction, I'm pretty sure, on a hotel now that's going to, again, bring more funds into the school. They were one of the main forces bringing the Obama Presidential Center and Library over to Woodlawn. And so it's very important that while we are fighting the city, we are also holding the university accountable to its role and what's happening to Woodlawn, with whether it's gentrification or just displacement of a mass group of Black folks, all being low income working class families, many folks who have been in the neighborhood for years. So where we are at now, we are rebuilding our bases because, of course, COVID wasn't predicted, and COVID did take some folks, unfortunately, literally out of the game, and some folks are just disengaged. So there's a lot of outreach happening right now. Again, outreach happening ideally with you all so that you can give our UCAD folks even more knowledge, especially going into what is happening around. We do have an upcoming, or you all have an upcoming UCAD alum weekend. If folks are going to be in the city, it's an even better time to then connect